I'm here with Naomi Johnson.
Hello.
You look so beautiful.
So do you.
I'm so happy to see you.
So happy to see you.
We have such a backstory,
We
which
do
we'll
have
get
history.
into. We do have history. Isn't that fun to have
Yes.
history?
Yes.
I mean, we have like real history, which
We do.
I value a lot.
Me too.
You kind of are the reason I'm doing a podcast, which we'll get into, because when we went our separate ways,
Yeah.
that's when I started podcasting.
That's true. Yes. And boy, were you meant to do this.
Yeah. That's why and I love how your philosophy on life is kind of, it's like you're very spiritual and connected. And I am also. And the older I get and the more I have lived through seasons of my life, I am so sure that when seasons happen, they're meant to happen. And when they close, they're meant to close. And if you can truly get in alignment and trust your intuition, it leads you on the most beautiful journey that you could never plan.
Yeah. Couldn't agree with that more. Yeah. I think, and like, I've learned to not make decisions from fear. I'm not perfect at it yet.
Okay.
But like recognizing when you're making a decision out of fear or anxiety, that just sends you down you're either going to take a much longer road to get back to where you were, or it's just going to you might never come back. So I just try to not make decisions out of fear, which is not always easy.
How do you know when it's a fear-based feeling?
I can feel it in my body. I start to, kind of spiral, or I start to think about a ton of different scenarios.
Okay, that's
that
a good
might
point.
happen if I don't. Like, I start to think a lot more than if I feel something other than fear. So if I'm feeling a different thing, like excitement or something, I don't think as much.
Oh, you're not like analyzing how it could play out.
Because fear takes me right out of my body. I get right into my head.
Okay.
And I completely get ripped out of my feminine energy, and like I'm in masculine, like problem solving and thinking and moving, and like that's not a creative space for me, and I'm usually not making great decisions from my masculine.
That's so interesting that you talk about that, because I have a very strong masculine energy.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Very
I
strong.
find you to be very feminine.
No, I feel like a boy half the time.
Oh.
When I look in the mirror, I feel like when I have done my spiritual journeys before, and I'm
so
like,
funny. This
you were a
petite
man in a
blue-eyed
past
blonde
life.
is like, I am a very manly girl.
I am very, very fiercely
What
protective.
makes you say that?
I'm very fiercely
yeah,
protective
yeah.
over myself.
That's
But over myself.
Yeah,
it started
okay.
with myself, and now it is my daughter. But like I started,
That's so feminine.
but I can be so like intense, like, and I'm strong and I'm physical, and so I'm not like a dainty flower.
Yeah, no,
like, I'm not like the woman who is like so beautiful and like so feminine. Who's like, I'm very much like, I'm gonna be in the mud, like pushing the sled up the
I'm
hill.
the same way. Yeah.
So I feel very manly, because like
Yeah.
I can definitely take care of myself.
Well, I think that's a misconception about female energy. Like when people think, oh, I'm very feminine, they think of like a flowy skirt and like dancing in the rain and like all that. But to me, I think that's a part of feminine energy. I think being feminine energy at its core is just being inside of your body. And like having feelings and intuitions inside of your body.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll tell you, I have never felt more vicious, more protective, stronger, more clear, more like I would rip someone's head off than once I had a baby. I think that's like a very feminine thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I think for me, masculine energy is trying to fix things all the time, trying to problem solve, get ahead of my husband, kind of worrying a lot, future tripping, that stuff that men do very well.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's kind of when they're in that masculine energy space, that's kind of when they're like at optimal working capacity. I'm not really. I need to like feel, I'm very creative. But I feel all that stuff in my body too. Like I feel instincts to kill.
Yeah. Which is why you wrote your song, Mom Ain't Jesus.
Yeah. Yes,
I love it that you like talk about having a loaded gun next to your Bible. It's like, don't mess with Naomi, man.
Yeah. No, and that's real. Like
it's true.
That's not a metaphor for me. It is a metaphor, but it's also
You really do have
real.
a loaded gun next
yeah.
to your Bible.
Oh yeah, I keep it on me at all times.
So you have a gun
With
right
her.
now.
Yeah. Oh no, right. Yeah. Guessed where it is.
I am trying not to be afraid of guns because
You're Texan.
I know I'm Texan, and I've shot so many guns. I have gone.
Yeah.
I literally like grew up around guns.
Yes.
But I get so afraid of their power. because I'm like, because it's like it's holding all that power, which is
Yeah.
like the point.
A healthy dose of respect is good.
Yeah.
But I think like the only real dangerous gun is one that you can't use well.
Yeah.
So
did you grow up like learning how to shoot
I did.
guns?
My dad was a really avid, passionate hunter, and he hunted for our food. I really didn't have a steak till I was like, I don't know, 14 or 15. Like we only ate venison and stuff that he would bring home. And so he loved guns. He had like a gun collection, but he taught us all how to shoot really young. And then it was like, stay away from these guns unless I'm with you. But he taught us how to use them. So I've always had a comfortability around guns and an understanding of what they're for.
Yeah.
Since I was little.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Okay, so you've really started to share your life.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yes.
Because like back in the day, a few years ago when we were hanging out, like you weren't ready to share.
Yes.
What changed that made you want to start sharing your life? Because you have such an amazing life.
I know. It's so fun.
And I can tell you're proud of it now because I feel like you had to go on a journey to get comfortable with sharing it. And now I can see like your pride because it taught you so much. And it gave you just a tapestry of skills and understanding and just knowledge that no one else would ever have gotten. Yeah. You have such a unique upbringing.
Thank you. You know, I remember, gosh, when we first met, you were like, Naomi, this is crazy. And I was, I had some things about my past and my life that I didn't have a very strong understanding of. I just had a lot of pain, a lot of confusion, a lot of feelings, and a lot of, not so happy memories attached. There are a lot of happy, funny memories and years that were good, but the painful ones were really close at that time. And I didn't really know how to talk about it without, I'm not really a shock value person. And that story has a lot of shock value. And so I wasn't really in a place where I wanted people to like lean in and be like, holy, can I cuss on this? Yeah. Holy shit, And then, oh, you grew up around the Amish, I was kind of like, and then also in the band setting, it really, I was in that for so long. It really wasn't a place to talk about my life in depth. It was really like, we were on the radio, you have, 90-second sound bites for radio stuff. And it's really people want to know who are you touring with and what project are you working on, or we kind of want them to get to know us as a band, so we're kind of talking about that. And I think people knew I had a lot of siblings, and there's always a huge story there. Then it's like, well, are you guys Mormon? Are you Catholic? And it's like, no, we're just hippies. We grew up around the Amish, and then it's all over. So I held that a little close to my chest because I was very focused on the band then. And making sure those stories got told. But man, a lot happened. First of all, I went on the Bobby podcast. He asked me to come on his podcast, and this was early, and I knew he wanted to talk about my story.
Were you still in Runaway June, or did you go solo?
I was in Runaway June then.
Okay.
And gosh, I listened back to that podcast a few months ago, and I was even like sugarcoating everything. Like,
was that
it was
your
all
first
fine.
time that you talked about it?
Oh yeah.
Because I actually remember that you posted the video of your van that you lived in, because y'all lived in a school bus.
We lived in a school bus.
And that was the first time you ever talked about that.
Yeah. And again, Bobby's podcast was huge. I was kind of nervous. I'm comfortable with him, but I also timelines, because I've had trauma throughout, timelines have gotten really kind of monked up. And so I don't know, I was very protective over my mother then. I was very protective over like the image of my siblings. My siblings were kind of feeling weird about me talking about stuff. So
when you talk about your life, you're talking about all of y'all.
Yeah.
And there's 10 siblings, including you, your mom, your dad.
Yeah.
I know. Your dad, did he pass away?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. He did pass away. Yeah.
So, but you have like all of your family that you're speaking on behalf of. And that's like, so everyone has to be comfortable. Yeah.
And I was at a point where a lot of them weren't, this is like pre-pandemic, like a lot of my siblings are working office jobs, and like a couple of them, one of my sisters like works for the federal government, and another one is, an accountant, and they just didn't want Deborah peeking over the, their cubicle, you were Amish, or like, I didn't know you lived in a bus.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were cults. And so I get that. And then, after the pandemic, some things just changed. I feel like, my siblings and I were really open with talking about it, and we put a lot of humor on this stuff. But as they became more comfortable, I also, I went solo, and I was like, guys, like, I am a public figure of types. Like, this is part of who I am. I was born to tell stories, and this is the music that's coming out of me. And like, I want your blessing, but I'm telling my story, and that doesn't that I shouldn't have to not tell my story because you guys are interwoven with mine.
That's so delicate, but it's so true because you have to tell the truth. And that's why I think the music you're making is so great.
Thank you.
Because it's so real.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. So what do they say when you said that?
So once I became really confident, and I decided, like, and we can get into this, but I had some events happen. One of them was I almost died giving birth to my daughter. Came really close to losing my life. And
you were super private. I didn't even know you had a daughter for a while until I saw it every now and then pop up a back of a head with a heart on it. And I'm like, she's got a daughter. She's got a kid.
Yeah. So I had some things happen that changed my life forever. And I decided to really tell the truth about my life and not sugarcoat it and not be afraid of it being raw and gritty and sometimes painful.
That's what makes it so amazing.
Yeah. You know what, Caroline? I was really afraid. I had a lot of fear around how I was going to feel talking about this stuff and delving back into these stories and like what that meant and like the child abuse that we really experienced. And, that's very painful stuff. And then putting it into music and trying to do that in the right way and like trusting my collaborators.
Talk to you about it at their own discretion. Like they can just ask you any personal question about your life because it's out there.
Yeah.
And so now it's like public.
Yes.
And so people feel like they have like,
Yeah, and they do because I gave it.
Yeah.
That's what how I see music is like once you put it out, it's no longer yours.
Yeah.
You're giving it away. And so I had to get to a place in my life where I was ready for that.
Yeah.
And that just so happened to be, a couple years ago. So I almost died giving birth.
How?
And I had to get a restraining order on my mom.
Really?
And I just started to write a whole new record.
Do you talk about why you had to get a restraining order?
I will say this. My mom has borderline personality disorder and bipolar disorder and is an alcoholic.
Was she that when she was raising all 10 of y'all?
Yes, she had those tendencies. She wasn't drinking alcohol then because my parents are super religious. But yes, when I look back, it was definitely there. Now, I think like with 10 kids, you're distracted from your own mental illness a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is probably in part why she kept having so many kids. She was avoiding the problems that she had. And she was a severely abused child.
She was.
Yes. My dad too. And that's how they kind of found each other. That's also why we ended up in these freaking cults.
They were drawn to it maybe?
Or I think they were looking for love and family. And those types of groups are very at the front. They'll just kind of become whatever you need. They'll just morph into that to get you in.
Did your mom and dad kind of run to each other to avoid their own traumas?
Oh, yeah.
And then they were looking for relief and like safety and love together.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think they found that in Jesus at first. They found this in religion. They found these home churches and stuff when they were young that really saved them. And they were able to get like parental kind of support from these people, find peers that loved them. And then they sort of like, I don't know, my parents were always searching for more because they wouldn't deal with their trauma.
Not looking within.
Yeah. So that's how we ended up in these cults. But I think that's why. And again, I was always afraid to talk about this because for some reason I felt like it was like I was telling people that these were my decisions. These were not my decisions. I was a child. These were my parents who were doing this crazy stuff.
Yeah. Well, and also,
But yeah.
I think too, I interviewed this author. She's written a bunch of books. Her name's Shauna Nyquist. And she said for her, she is an advocate that like you should share from a scar, not an open wound.
Oh,
and so
wow.
it's like maybe you just needed
Whoa.
your story to become a scar, you know?
That
Because
is a beautiful way to put it. That is absolutely what happened.
yeah, because if it's a wide open wound, every
Mhm.
time you talk about it, it's like throwing salt and like a dagger right back into that wound.
Yes.
You know, you don't have
Yes.
the protection you need to like handle it.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And the older I get, the more I didn't really have this understanding of like, okay, my parents were abused children. This leads them to do XYZ. I didn't have that zoom out. And I don't think that you really get that until you become a little older.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that understanding something sometimes is like more powerful than forgiveness even. I think it can lead to forgiveness. And sometimes there's times where it's like, I just choose to forgive this and move on without understanding. And sometimes you're called to that. But man, I really understand, like, my dad's dad was a severe alcoholic out of World War II and beat the crap out of his kids and his wife. And he grew up in that environment. And, you know, now I know why my dad never touched alcohol. You know, he didn't talk about that.
Really?
And he would say some things about his childhood sometimes in like a funny, joking way about like how rough and tumble him and his brothers were. And my mom would always get this weird energy about it. And I didn't find out until later that my dad was kind of like sugarcoating, like him getting the absolute crap beat out of him. But she knew that. And she didn't want him telling us those stories. But then also, again, she came from a very traumatized, abusive family. So I have an understanding and a compassion for them, but I choose to end that trauma with me.
Yeah.
And
how do you do that? How do you end all that trauma? Because that's a lot of stuff to dive into and detangle.
I'm working on it, you know, but I just know that my child will never know the things that I knew. I'll never drag her around while I'm trying to figure my stuff out. Like, I promise to figure out my own traumas and my own tendencies that come through my bloodline, through my female line. Like, there's a lot of generational curses that came through. And my mom, you know, I remember growing up and her telling me that her mother was very abusive and that she was not going to pass that on. And, you know, she went through a lot, but somewhere she completely lost that path, and it didn't end with her, but it's going to end with me. My child will never know that. It will stop right here.
But I even wonder if your mom had a chance to even like get into it, like you're kind of talking about, because like having 10 kids, like always looking for a place to belong and to plant roots and always on the go. Like, when do you have a moment? Like, I know how hard it is to have one kid. Like, and like, you know, like how does she even have time?
In some ways, you know, I do think in some ways that having the children was a Band-Aid, and she deals with mental illness that I do not have. You know, I know that I don't have what she has. I was not abused by my mother like she was. But because she wasn't, you know, she had opportunities to do therapy, and they did marriage counseling, and anytime there was certain problems brought up, she would just get up and leave. You know, started drinking to cover up pain. You know, she never dealt with my brother's death in a healthy way. So there are things where there are choices made, and I know that mental illness, I don't have that. So it's really, or at least I think I don't.
The fact that you're even like aware and working on it, though, you know, I think if you have a mental illness, you don't really know you have it.
Unless people around you are saying, yeah, you got this, especially professionals that you've seen that are saying, hey, yeah, you really do have some problems, and I think we should talk about it. And she says, no, we're not gonna.
Just don't want to crack it open.
Yeah. And so I have gotten to a place in my life where even if it's super, 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 super hard, and it has been a few times, I will work on my marriage to make that stronger. And I will work on myself so that my daughter so that I can be someone who she can turn to for advice. I don't have that. And I want to be that for her. And what does that mean? That means I need to read self-help books. I need to do the work so that, you know, when she's 20, 15, 16, whatever age. And she knows that she can come to me for sound advice, and I don't go like, oh my gosh, am I going to give her the right advice? Like that's something I really want for her, because I don't have that.
Man,
so
becoming a mom really does do that. I felt that same way because I had always struggled with like self-worth. Like I just never felt like worthy ever.
Yeah.
And just never felt like, I just never really felt worthy of anything great. And I struggled with that even when we were, so back in the day when we were pursuing Runaway June together. We have a whole backstory.
I know, let it out. Yeah.
Which I love.
I know, so crazy.
I have to say though, that was a very pivotal time for me too, because just for everyone listening, Naomi and I, like, we were on our own musical careers, and like the universe brought us together, literally.
Yeah.
Because
crazy.
I just feel like, can I quickly tell our little story?
Yes.
Because this was a huge pivotal part of my life, and when I really started realizing I have to figure out my worth without anything attached to it.
Which is also takes a lot of strength, because where we were, it was like we were off to the races, and for you to go, whoa, wait a second.
Literally, this was one of the most pivotal times in my life. Was you have truly one of the greatest voices I've ever heard.
Thank you.
In my entire world.
Thank you.
Your voice is so beautiful, and it is so real. But like, you just have like, it is just a true gift from God, and it's not like put on. It's not like you were like tried to like make this sound. Like, this is just the way you speak your truth is through your voice, and you can feel that in your music. And I've just always felt that way about you.
Thank you.
And so you kind of got discovered like through, you had, first off, your jobs that you had before, like on a salmon boat, like you're like working on a salmon boat. You start gigging when you're 8, playing guitar to like get money for your parents, because y'all are living on a school bus so you can have gas money. I mean, your life is, you will have a movie about your life. It's phenomenal.
Oh my gosh.
But you had really gotten going in music, and Benny Brown, the owner and president of Broken Bow, like loved you, but he didn't want to sign a solo female. And somehow
Dude, do you remember that in that time, what was that, 2013 or something? Labels were like looking at girls and saying, you're a star, but we're not signing females.
Yeah, but we're not signing females.
They would never say that today. Like, you could get sued for saying that, but they were literally telling girls, like, I remember Carly Pierce was like, could not get a record deal.
Yeah.
She's such an obvious sign.
Yeah.
Like, it was insane.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, he wanted to put like a Dixie Chick. He wanted to do the Dixie Chicks.
Yeah, he was like, so he loved me and Jen, but he didn't think we were solo, had a lead singer voice. And he thought you had the greatest voice ever, which totally agreed. And he was like, basically like, if y'all can become a trio, you have a record deal.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, damn, we're going to become a trio. And honestly, it was a great experience.
Yeah.
Except for I feel like that's when I realized I was not meant to be a singer.
Yeah.
Like that was the moment that changed everything for me, because I had moved to Nashville 10 years ago, tried to be a singer, could not learn harmonies, could not play the freaking mandolin. And here I am trying to play the mandolin in the band.
And be a harmony singer.
And I'm like, this is not it.
Yeah. And you know, for the person who it is, you go, oh, this is it, and this is going to be hard, and I'm going to and I feel the impetus, the urge to like figure this out.
Yeah.
Or you go, whoa, this is so obviously glaring not my path.
Yeah.
Which is what you did, which is not easy to do. God, we had already signed our deal.
We were making the album in the studio. We were making the album in the studio, and I literally had a full-blown panic attack. That was the second panic attack I've ever had in my life.
Yeah.
We were in there, and I was like, I think we were even singing like Blue Roses or something, and the harmony is so hard on Blue Roses. Yeah. And I was just in there. I just gotten married. My husband Michael was in a band touring too.
He was like all over the place.
And I was like, this is not what I'm supposed to be doing. Like, I don't enjoy it. It's not joyful to me. Like, I'm bringing y'all down because I am doing something I'm not supposed to be doing. And like you said, if you're supposed to do it, then you like step up to it. You want it.
Feel it. You're like, this is hard, but boy, do I want it.
Yes.
Yeah. Which I've felt that my whole life.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is hard, and I can't do this. And also, it's not fair to you guys, because like, what if I'm trying to fill this role that is not really my role?
Yeah.
And someone else is supposed to do it. But like, knowing that that's the bigger picture.
That takes so much courage to like.
And I was so young and stupid. Yeah. But anyway, so I had that panic attack and ended up just kind of like leaving the band. But I have to say, Naomi, that was the moment that changed my whole life, because that's when I realized, okay, what do I really want to do?
Yeah.
And what am I really good at? And I realized it wasn't actually music, even though I had moved to Nashville to do it 10
yeah,
years ago.
Yeah.
So like you are a huge, you and Jen are like the reason why I ultimately came over here, and this is what I love. But I never would have gotten here without that.
Yes, and also podcasting was like just starting to do its thing.
Yeah.
And I think you have a gift of talking to people. Like,
and
that's
I
clear.
love it.
And you had done that before, which is why you guys were so good at promotion. Was like talking to people, getting to know people, feeling authentic. It didn't feel patronizing ever. Like, this is what you're good at. And there's a huge, I mean, people need this, you know?
Yeah. So how did you know it was time for, you've always been you. I mean, you're just such your own shooting star. I mean, you really are. You are just like such, you can play and sing with anyone, but you are just your own entity. Like, it's just, that's just how you're made.
Thanks.
How did you know that it was time to like step away? Because Runaway June, y'all had gotten like a number 2 or 1 or something.
Yeah, we had gotten a top 5.
Or top 5,
yeah, which is
huge,
you know, absolutely massive. We had some chart success, and we made some money, and we traveled around the world and
toured with
oh my gosh, we toured with Carrie Underwood and
I know
Garth Brooks and Willie Nelson, and like dreams
amazing.
coming true. Just and you know, I was lead singer of that group for 7 years.
No way. No, you were not.
7 years, Start from when we signed.
It's been that many years?
Yeah. And then it was like, there was just a feeling I got on the last tour that we did, where I started writing these songs in writing rooms.
You started being ready.
Yes. And I had this realization when we were starting to make a new record, that none of these songs that I was writing were ever going to make this record. And it just wasn't the place for it. It was not like a heartbreak. I wasn't like, oh no, you know. But
your story is so deeply personal. If you're going to write your story.
Yeah, and it wasn't right for me to force the band to sing these songs when they're my stories. They're not the band stories. And so that it was right then and in there, coupled with that podcast I did with Bobby, where, you know, I've said this before, but there was a time where I really kind of wasn't even sure I had a story worth telling.
And you have these stories.
I mean this in a way of like, I have met so many people, Caroline, with like outrageous stories, and that had like, you know, way more, sometimes like worse stories, but like, you know, crazy robust stories. I never felt like, whoa, I'm special. I have got to tell this, you know? And so it was really a couple of things like that, like the Bobby cast. And then me starting to be in the writing rooms and trusting my collaborators, and seeing that I started to have this, I had the songwriting chops now to write these songs and make them sound right. That it was a culmination of that, where I was like, you know, I think it's just time for me to do my own thing. Yeah. I think it's time. Yeah. And that's a hard thing to do, you know, in a band that's like,
you have a deal, you have contracts, you're like going.
Yeah,
like
we live together, we share money, we have, you know, future plans and stuff. And
that is very hard to walk away.
Yeah, it's not easy to walk away. It wasn't. And it honestly took me like 2 years to do it. And I didn't want to abandon my bandmates. And so it started off with like, I'm just going to do a solo project. And that was not warmly welcomed. Yeah. And so I was like, okay, that's not something that's going to be something we do. Yeah.
And which I can see the other side, because, you know, if you start doing a solo project, then it feels like maybe you're, you know, 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Or what if the solo takes off and it's just like, I get it. I can see perspectives.
I was still committed to the band at some level. And I wasn't sure I wanted to fully abandon it. Like, we had built so much and spent so much time, but I was like, I was feeling this build up, this impetus, this calling. Totally. And so I was trying to figure out what that meant. And what it ultimately meant was that I needed to do my own thing and not force, you know, a square peg in a round hole. And then I got pregnant, and a lot of stuff started happening with my family. My dad died. My mom, just my relationship with her.
Did it really fall apart after your dad died?
Before
It
before
did?
that. It
Were
was
your
really
parents
after I got
divorced?
married. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they got divorced. They've been divorced a long time, but they were married 24 years.
Oh my God.
I'm like, stick it out, you guys, for heaven's sake. Like, you're both crazier than, anything I've ever seen. Like,
So were you close with your dad?
Not really. No.
So you're not super close with your parents.
No. No, it's very complicated and very difficult with them. My mother is like I was saying, she's a unique bird.
Yeah.
She's very, very, very complicated, very, very, very traumatized. And as she continued to get older, those things, they just get darker and more fragmented, and you don't heal with time, essentially, with what she's got going on. And so right around the time I got married, I told her that she needed to really take some steps to improve. Like, I don't care if it's you going to a Buddhist temple once a week. Like, you cannot just like continue to deteriorate and then expect us to have like this wholesome relationship. Like, that's not the relationships I want.
Yeah.
I don't want that. And I don't want to avoid your calls, and I don't want to avoid and then pretend like, oh, I've got this mom. Like, I don't want that. Yeah. I want real. I want a real relationship with you, and I will work with you. I want to be a better daughter, a better wife, a better friend. Like, I want that. And if you can't even make little steps,
then you
towards
can't, you can't make her. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
And I had my own family to protect and to foster. And, I have to make boundaries for that. Once I got married, it was like really clear that like I have my own family that I'm starting now. And it's my choice who's allowed in those relationships. Yeah. And I want to continue to get, I want to have healthier, stronger relationships. I want to grow from where I came from.
Yeah.
And, I have a husband who he's been sober 15 years. He works really hard to like on all of his relationships. And I'm just really inspired by that. And some of my siblings are the same way. So it was around my wedding when I told her, like, I cannot continue to have this relationship with you. I want a new one. And are you willing to do that with me? And it was a resounding no.
Wow.
No, I'm not, because nothing's wrong with me. So I said, okay, well, the door is open, but I'm not walking through it. And when you decide to improve your life, I'm here. That still stands true to me. I'm not like this bitter, closed door person. I'm always hopeful and kind of waiting for her to make the steps. But it was that. And then realizing like I had this whole like female line on her side that had a lot of dangerous curses and spiritual flaws that could easily drip out of me and pass on to my daughter. And I was like, oh, no.
How do you break this?
Yeah. I strengthen my relationship with God.
Yeah.
Every day.
Do you have practices that you do?
Yes, I do. I'm very much into prayer. And I go to church. I surround myself with people that are trying to be spiritually healthy. I spend a lot of time in nature, which is where I find God. Yeah. It's so important to me. I mean, Caroline, I think that's like one of the biggest flaws with our culture is people are not connected to nature anymore.
Agreed. I remember I was telling your manager and publicist, like when you would show up, we would practice, you would come with your jar of food that you would have like all these natural foods. I feel like you like picked a lot of them out of the garden, or you'd be walking by and you'd be like, oh, that's a whatever plant, and you just eat it. Like you just like know all about nature.
Yeah,
and random remedies.
Yes. Yeah, it's actually like health in that space, not like in the like rah gym rat health
you actually
space.
Legit know what is healing too.
Yeah, I know a lot about it. And I continue my education there. I really find a lot of spiritual growth there.
Yeah.
Because it makes me feel closer to our creator through the earth and through, other creation.
He gave us these plants right here.
Yes.
For our healing.
Yeah. And not just to eat. Sometimes like this sounds probably crazy to some people, but like when you become really connected with nature, you get to know like the different spirits of different plants. Like just sitting beside certain plants give you company, and they fill your spirit.
Like what?
I'm also Cherokee, so this like
I
is
love
very. Like,
I wish we had this. This is what you're saying, and I agree. Like this is what is missing.
Yeah.
Is the connection to nature. Is
Huge.
Realizing we're all part of the circle of life. Is realizing we all work together.
Yeah, and that everything has a life and a spirit and an intelligence that's like ready and waiting to share with you. And we're missing out on so much wisdom. But yeah, so that's really where I have found a ton of growth and security, and my spiritual practice is really through nature. But I've strengthened my relationship with God, and I found a great church in Park City that I love, and just surrounding myself with younger families that are trying to just be better is huge. It's a small step, but it's massive.
Okay, so when you're growing up, your parents, you're living on a school bus.
Yeah.
10 kids, a dog, 2 parents. And y'all are traveling around.
9 kids. Yeah, because my oldest brother didn't go. And then
Where did he stay?
He stayed in Virginia. He was 16. That's a whole nother rabbit hole.
And that's your brother who passed away.
Yes. Yeah. So he didn't go with us. Him and my dad had a really strained relationship. He's not my dad's biological son. My dad adopted him when he was 3, but they really struggled. And Christian today would probably be diagnosed with like Asperger's or autism or something like that. But in the 90s, and my parents, again, they were in these super religious communities and among the Amish. So you know this, but we grew up around the Amish. We lived among them because my mom was their midwife. In Northern Virginia, and they don't go to the hospital to have babies or really kind of for any reason.
Yeah.
And so she was like an herbal healer, and she helped she was also a death doula, so she helped a lot to die.
So your mom has some beautiful traits.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Just couldn't harness
she
it all.
also passed to me and my sisters and my brother, like yes. That I'm actually able to hold, which is really beautiful, but which really kind of I think about those attributes that she had when I was younger that I've modeled my own mothering over. So no, it's not all bad with her. It's just currently in my adulthood, my relationship with her has become really difficult and non-existent.
Yeah.
So, so we were among these Amish, and when a child has any type of issues, it's usually, something weird and spiritual, or you're not spanking them hard enough. So there's a lot of child abuse in Amish communities.
And you suffered some of that, you said?
Yeah. There's a lot of sexual abuse, not just Amish communities, but closed off communities in general. Cults, Mennonites, I'm sure there's some going on in, the Mormon church, like those kind of like dense, closed off somewhat communities. There's a lot of child abuse.
How does it happen? Like, how does it sneak in?
I just think there's evil everywhere.
Yeah.
I think there's evil everywhere. And I guess I can really only speak for the Amish because that's my only real experience, but they do not interact with the outside world. So if you're having problems with sexual abuse, you don't call the authorities.
You handle it within.
You handle it within, and how they handle it is they kind of just move that person around to other communities to do more damage. So, and they also are like, well, you need to repent, and that person will like repent or be purged from demons, and then they'll just move him along.
Were you afraid as a kid in these, like when your parents, because you said you joined a cult called Zion?
Yeah.
Were you afraid? Like, are you scared? Because like, it sounds like your parents had good intentions, but maybe didn't know how to like handle all of y'all.
No protective instinct.
Yeah. Protection. Like you weren't really protected, it feels like.
Yes. I think it's a good question. I didn't feel afraid. I felt very happy as a child.
That's good.
My dad, I think my dad was a big guy. He was like 6'2" and kind of stocky. And I think men were just a little intimidated by him anyway. So that kept a lot of that stuff at bay, even though he had, 7 beautiful little girls.
Because all your sisters are stunning. You and your sisters are gorgeous.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, even little boys, like, you have all these kids. But my dad was just a little bit of an intimidating figure. So I think just that innately would help kind of keep things at bay. But, unfortunately, it didn't 100%. And what happened with me when I was 5 years old and I was sexually assaulted by someone in the Amish community. And I had this relationship with my parents where I immediately told them, like immediately told them what happened. And they talked with me about it. And my dad, I wish I would have asked my dad, like, what did you think? Because this was a very close family friend of ours. Usually is. We ended up leaving the community for good then, though, because the same person did that to my other sister. But he told her that he would hurt her if she told anyone. I don't remember him telling me that. Maybe he did, and I was just like, whatever. But I don't remember being afraid. But I remember the cult that we went into. I remember going, this is weird.
Yeah,
I
you
do.
could feel it
I
off.
was old enough.
You felt off.
Yeah, I was 3 years older than Sunny.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think when you get hurt like that little, your intuition gets raised really high. So I have a really, really crazy discernment for people.
Yeah.
And
you can tell their intentions.
Yeah, and I remember being 8 and feeling like that community was weird and that there were really weird people in there.
Not to harp on this because I don't want to like make you relive stuff, but it's like when that happens, how does that change you as a kid? Because that's such a violation.
Yes, I think there's a spiritual aspect to it, and I think when you're unprotected like that and you're hurt by an adult, you get these instincts that kick in to protect yourself from it again, and so you just get really heightened. Your sensitivity is heightened. I know mine did. And I mean, to this day, and I really think it comes from that exact thing, but also being in dangerous situations where, I didn't feel super protected, or I didn't feel like my parents were super alert, and I had to be alert. And then you have all these younger siblings that I'm alert for them as well. And
so I mean,
very young.
Yeah.
I can spot a dirt bag.
Yeah.
A million miles
It's more
away.
just like it's
immediately.
It's more just like a feeling, right?
Yeah, it's a feeling, but it's weird. I've talked about it with therapists before. I notice little micro eye movements, different ways that someone starts to breathe if they're lying. I can
really.
And of course, I'm sure I've been wrong before. I've been wrong about people before.
Right.
But I am so like, I'm like a cat in a room. Like I can see everything.
Do you analyze every room you go into? I feel like I do.
Yeah, I do. I think especially like in in professional settings, like I'm in there. I'm kind of like, I have this like a feline kind of a totem animal that comes out where I'm very, very sensitive to, danger or even, I'm a lot more sensitive in rooms with people, but it does drain my battery. I can only kind of do it for a couple hours. I'm like, I'm over this. I'm so over this.
You have so many, you're just so wise though. I just want to briefly like go through some of the jobs you've had as your timeline, just so people know.
Yeah.
So you're born into a family.
Yeah.
1 in 10 kids. You travel in a school bus. You live in a school bus. No heating or no air. Y'all travel all over the place.
No food.
No food. You're like no money.
Yeah.
And you join some cults, have a lot of experiences, some trauma. Then you leave and you're out of money again. So you start playing guitar. You learn guitar from a kid at the cult.
Yes.
Then you start playing guitar like at gas stations for money, so you can provide for your family to drive the school bus, your home around. Did y'all ever know where you were going?
Yeah, I think there was if I remember, I was talking to my sister about this a couple days ago because, I'm so little. Like I'm looking at this picture of Sunny and she's 5 and she's so sweet. I was only 3 years older than her. Like I'm a little child. And I forget how young that is until I see someone that little. But yeah, so I don't really remember a lot of that stuff myself. I have to ask my siblings sometimes. But she told me, and my sister was 15 in the bus, like started her period in the bus, like had such, I cannot imagine.
What is it like living on the bus?
I don't know. You should interview her. She's crazy.
But what was it like for you on the bus? Like, what is home like?
It was really, for a while, because we were such wild kids, it felt really free. We were outside all the time. We had no authority figures telling us what to do. We were not in school. We really only needed to listen to our parents, and they let us be buck wild. I mean, we were gone all day exploring in the woods, barefoot, like
no TV, no technology.
no, like if we got hungry, we would eat some plants that we knew, or we'd crack nuts, and we literally we had no technology at all. We had never been in school, so there was no one like looking for us when we disappeared.
How are you? Are you getting registered for school, or are y'all just like non-existent?
No, I'm like what they call an unschooled person. I have like barely a 5th grade education.
But you're so smart. And you, how did you learn all this?
I'm an excellent reader. Did
you read? So it kind of just goes to show you really don't need all the stuff you learn in school. It's kind of a waste of
it's true.
time sometimes.
I put a high value on education. I really love to learn, and so I do learn because I love to learn. And I think a lot of people that I've met, that desire to learn gets stamped out of them somehow in public school. So I'm grateful in that aspect. That never did. I still have a burning desire to learn. But I was taught how to read. I have some dyslexia, so I learned how to read a little later than my siblings. But once I learned how to read, I was reading at a college reading level at like 14. And I did learn that like if you can read really well, you can learn pretty much anything.
Yeah.
Then YouTube comes on.
Yeah.
And I have fixed so much stuff from YouTube. I learn everything from YouTube. Like I take full advantage of it. But my mom is very intelligent. My dad's really smart too. So all my siblings are smart.
And super capable. Y'all all I feel like are flourishing in your own ways.
We are. Yeah.
It
could have really gone different.
That's what I'm saying. I know. It could have gone another road, but it didn't.
Yeah, it really could have. Yes. I'm so proud of how my siblings have turned out.
Where did that come from? Where did that drive come from?
My parents, early on, they surrounded themselves with some really beautiful, smart, successful people. And then they started to drift away. As these people started to kind of tell my mom and my dad, hey, why don't you guys slow down having kids? This was around like after I was born. Why don't you guys slow down, get some health insurance, maybe buy a house, and then continue your family. But I think it's probably smart if you guys just like pump the brakes a little bit and start getting your lives in order. You're pretty young. And that was like, my mom is not someone that you tell what to do at all.
Yeah.
Even if it's good advice, if she has something in her head, she's going to do it. Like, it doesn't matter who gets hurt, who gets run over, what she has to do. Okay. She will do it. And so it was literally, they left this whole community of people that they had, but those people stayed in touch with us kids kind of our whole lives. And so we had these examples, I think, to look towards, or people that we kind of wanted to make proud. Mm-hmm. And I really attribute that a little bit, I think.
What were you and your siblings like together growing up? I remember one time y'all like, did y'all have like a pet llama or something?
We had so many animals.
I know.
Yeah.
But like, what were y'all?
Emus.
You
know the emu story.
I love it. I love all of them.
Oh my God. Caroline. Yes, that's right. Yeah, we had 3 emus. This story.
On the bus with you?
Dude, no, this was after we got out of the bus. But we had our dog with us. My one sister was born on the bus. Yeah, that was wild.
Did you help give birth?
I watched her be born. Yeah. Yeah, I watched like 5 of my siblings be born, including one with a C-section. I saw her get born.
Who did the C-section?
This was a backwoods. No, it's not. No, this was a hospital C-section.
You were in the okay. I'm like, you're doing it on the bus. Who's doing the C-section?
C-section. Yeah, I mean, after all these stories, I would believe that. Yeah, crazy. Lots of crazy stuff. But we had the emus were after the bus. That's a hilarious story. But I'll tell another time.
That's the thing with you. You have so many stories, which they could go.
Yeah, it's like it's not all dark, but a lot of it. I had to go to these dark places, and I had to like relive these to get my scar, I think. Like to cover up the wound that was open. I had to like go back through it in order to write these songs. And
your song, okay, so you have the 2 songs that you just put out.
Yeah.
Wait, I'm making sure I have
Bricks.
The right yeah. Bricks make houses, mm-hmm. and Mama Ain't Jesus.
Yeah.
And they're so deeply personal.
Yeah, super. I mean, and they're not even scratching the surface on some of the other ones I have on the record. But yeah, Bricks Make Houses, like that, I decided to put that one out first because to me, that was the best place to start to kind of tell people like how I started my musical journey. I mean, like where do I start? Like, because my musical journey started in the bus, like when I started playing my guitar for gas money, and I'm 8, and I decided to use the single cover as was a real picture of us like all sitting outside the bus, and we're stranded in Texas. Dude, do you remember when we were in Waco?
Oh, and
I told
you said we
got stranded in Waco, and you were like, wait a minute.
We have all sorts of groups here.
Yeah, yeah.
And you had like spent some time with some Waco groups, right?
We were
just passed through.
We were parked in some state park for like 2 months, a long time in Waco. And I just remember my dad being extremely depressed. Like he would sleep. My dad had like crippling depression issues. And he would sleep all day and like couldn't work, like couldn't move, like in like disabled with depression. My mom was like, they were not doing well. Their marriage completely fell apart when we were in the bus. Mm-hmm. But Waco is a particular time.
I think Waco's an energy field. I think there's something in Waco.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more.
I always feel
I couldn't agree more. And I don't remember if it was bad or good, but I think it brings people there for some reason. Yeah. Like it has a draw. Yeah. Uh-huh. So, yeah. Okay. So this picture we're in, do you know where South Padre Island is? I don't.
Yeah.
I just remember we were there and we were stranded there, and like, we were like living, like going to food banks and stuff like that. And that picture is taken there. And so I remember that's a picture that I kind of held close to my chest up until recently. Where it's just very much like, here it is. But it's the truth. Like I learned how to play guitar in a cult, and that's where my musical journey started. So I decided to like put that song out because, we lived in that bus and that was my home. But the home that I've always felt, and like you asked, what was it like with you and your siblings? Like we've always been very close. And, this journey that we were all put on together, it really bonded us in a way.
Oh, yeah.
Some of it's trauma bonding. Some of it is just like, we're just bonded together with this story and this past and the same parents. And, but it was amazing. I mean, I love them. We had so much fun. We did such wild stuff. It was us against the world. Like we didn't go to school, and like no one effed with us.
You were totally
we had tons
free.
Of friends. Yeah. And other kids were like really drawn to us. So we made friends very easily. Once we were in one spot long enough, but yeah, it was like bricks make houses, people make homes is the hook. Mm-hmm. And I had a lot of love in my family. My parents loved us. And I think they did the best that they could with what they had.
Yeah.
And did they make mistakes and bad choices? Yes. But that doesn't mean they didn't do the best that they could.
Yeah.
So yeah, then I would go over to people's houses that had like these big, beautiful houses, and it all looked the same, and their parents hated each other, or they didn't like, they didn't have anything like what I had. And I lived in a dilapidated farmhouse after we got out of the bus with, sharing beds with my siblings, no AC. We never had any heating and air ever. A literal hole in our one bathroom floor. You could like see the ground through it. But you know what? Like, I don't know. I think that being able to bond with my siblings,
perspective too.
Yeah. And this is not me sugarcoating it. Like I look back and I'm like, I had so much love. Like I knew if someone came into the house that my dad would protect me, or if I had a bad dream, I could crawl in bed with him and my mom. And like, I know so many kids that couldn't do that, or they were afraid of their dad. Mm-hmm. And so I think being able to like write that song and put it out and start telling my story, it felt like the right way, and it felt perfect.
Has it been healing?
Yes, because I've also been able to talk to people. And get to know, like I've had fans for so long that like are telling me stuff that they've never told me before until I opened this door that was like, okay, the conversation is no longer superficial. Like we're getting real. And, fans, friends, people in the industry I've known for 10 plus years that like will all of a sudden just drop a bomb after they've listened to one of these songs. I'm like, I did not know that about your mother. You've never talked about your mom before. And so that feels really good because much like you, I kind of want to superficial, like small talk is like very draining for me. I kind of want to jump in, girl. I want to beat a dead horse.
I do too.
I want to dive to the bottom.
I do too. I do too. I want to know the root cause, the core.
Genuinely.
I want to know why you're motivated. Because the thing I've realized now doing all these podcasts is everybody has trauma. Every single person has trauma.
I think it's the human condition.
You can't be a human without trauma. No. I used to think people didn't have trauma.
Yeah.
I used to think
I used to think that too.
Yeah. I used to think
there were people out there that like were just completely fine.
And it's all different. And some people have like major trauma, like capital T trauma, little t trauma, but it's like everybody has trauma. Everybody's nervous system is jacked up as a kid somehow, you know, and it's like you create all these beliefs that you have to like figure out actually the truth. And I think that has been very healing to me, is to realize, to have stories, like talk to people like you, and just realize we are all on this journey. Nobody knows what the F they're doing, literally. And I feel like you have to get to the point where you come to your own alignment, your own guidance system. You realize what you actually are drawn to, what feels right, what your gifts are. And that's just a journey. Yeah. It literally is a personal journey.
Yes. Yeah.
You know?
Yes.
How has marriage changed your life? Because I know you love being married.
I love being married.
And you're married to a rock star. Yes.
I know. He's a total dreamboat.
Martin Johnson, Boys Like Girls. I mean,
he's a
total rock star. Yeah.
He is, being married to him has been such a healing thing, because like I remember I was single for a little while before I met him, and I told God that the next person I dated, seriously, I wanted them to have a great relationship with their parents. And I'd met so many guys that just had like, faulty relationships. That's fine. I did, I do, but I really wanted someone that had healthy relationships. And he's just a dreamboat. He has such a great relationship with his dad. His mom died when he was 16, but they had a great marriage. They never fought in front of him. They didn't have money growing up, but they did everything they could to provide a good life for him. And, he's had his own battles. He almost died when he was 23, got really famous really soon, really fast, terrible drug addict, couldn't handle the fame. And it almost killed him a few times. And like the team that was around him was making so much money that they just would he overdosed in a bathroom over international waters. And they kind of just drug him out and sat him up. They're like, oh, this happens to him. He's fine. This happens all the time. And like he almost died like that a couple times. And then he got sober. He's been sober 15 years. So
amazing.
And he is just like such an example for so many other people that he helps. And, we talk about things as a family. If there's problems, we talk them through. We communicate. We have a beautiful daughter. I love being married. When you're with the right person, it's so good.
How did you know it was the right person?
A couple different things. Our second date, we went grocery shopping because he was going to cook for me. This was so cute. Food is very emotional to me. Like, I have a very emotional connection with food. Like forever, even if I was on the road a ton, I needed my refrigerator to be full of food because I had so many years with an empty fridge, and that always kept me feeling like very uncertain and anxious. And a full refrigerator made me feel secure. So food is very emotional. So our second date, we're like shopping, and he's like running around the store. He's very high energy. Like when I first met him, I was like, there's no way this guy is not doing cocaine. Like there's no way. Or he's just done so much. It's just permanently in his system. Like he's got like these wild blue eyes. He's like covered in tattoos. His hair is like sticking up. And
he's just like, ready to go.
He's just a wild guy. Yeah. I cannot imagine him on drugs.
Because he already has so much energy about it.
I cannot imagine him. So he's like running around this grocery store, like piling this cart full of groceries for just us two. And I just had this moment where I saw him down the aisle, and I heard God speak to me, and he said, "That's your husband." I just knew it. And then I quickly put it out. I was like, oh God, I'm going to get hurt. I'm going to get hurt. I'm catching feelings. Like, if this isn't it, I want something like this. Like, this is very close. And this guy's meant to come into my life to like push me further to the one. But I don't know. There was something about his like wild nature. He made me laugh so much. And I just felt completely relaxed with him. He's always 2 steps ahead of me, like taking care of stuff, like always. And
So super thoughtful.
yeah, he just makes me feel really like I have a lot of certainty in my life because of him. So,
and that's amazing.
he's extremely thoughtful.
Well, and he's a rock star too. People don't expect that from a rock star.
Yeah. No, you know, it's funny, like, and of course I think my husband is so handsome, but like he's got these striking features. When I saw him, I was like, there's no way this guy's nice. You know what I mean? Like, and then, oh, there's one other thing. I remember we were talking. I was pretty rude to him at first because I was like, whatever. I was like not dating artists at all.
Well, yeah.
And he slid into my DMs and I was like, oh God, you know. And I didn't know who he was. I thought he was a songwriter. And he was at the time, but I asked him, so I found out that he had written a bunch of these pop hits. And I was kind of texting him, like kind of bored on an airplane. And he was like texting me. So I was like, all right, I'll flirt with this guy for a while. And I asked him, I'm like, what's something you've done in your life that you're most proud of? And he answered with, I've been sober 9 years. I'm really proud of that. I've become the son that I really want. I'm proud of my relationship with my dad and my friends. And he was like, I'm really most proud of having like healthy relationships with people I went to middle school with. I did not expect this answer.
No, that is so deep and like worked on. He has done the work.
Yeah, he did not mention his career at all. Like almost like thought he was being baited or something. And I went, okay, oh God, okay, this guy's got some depth. Like I misjudged him so hard. And that was kind of when I was like, okay,
I'm here for this.
Yeah. But it was really that grocery store when I heard it. I heard a voice go, that's your husband.
Does God speak to you a lot like that?
Yeah.
He does?
Yeah.
Like you hear voices?
Sometimes it's, you know.
You hear his voice?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes I hear it like definitive. Like I'll get an image in my head of the future that's so definitive. That's almost like a deja vu thing. And I'm like, that's going to happen. And it does. And then sometimes, you know, his voice is very mysterious. It comes through different people will speak to you, or I'll feel something, but yeah, I've heard the voice like that before. And I'm a human being, so I'm like, that's not what happened, you know. But sometimes it's like, no, that's exactly what it is. So yeah. What about you have a very strong relationship with God.
I feel like sick if I wish God spoke to me like where I could hear a voice. I've never heard a voice other than well, like when I left the band and then when I left Michael the first time. My two biggest leavings I've ever done. Michael and I broke up, and I felt I pushed it to as far as I could go, and then my body shut me down. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like I used to do that when I was younger. I would push things so far because I'd be like, no, this is what I want to do. This is going to happen. And then finally my body would shut me down. And that's the only two panic attacks I've ever had, where I literally couldn't catch my breath. Couldn't breathe. And so now I can feel it. I just feel it. I wish I could
imagine
hear it.
going to your therapist and being like, I need meds, instead of being like, whoa, that is something. So that's what I mean. Like, we're all faced with choices. You can all of a sudden like go pick up 20 airport bottles and slurp those back and get through your anxiety.
Or you dive into it. Or you can
go, what is this?
What is this? Why am I feeling this way? Exactly. And I feel like I've always had to confront mine. Like I can't block it out. And I think no one really can ultimately. It's going to get you. Yeah. And so I can feel it like when I'm out of line, when I feel like I've healed my nervous system. I've really worked on it for the past like 5 years. Like just calming down. It's amazing. Well, being a mom made me want to do that. Yes. And I feel like you're the same. Like when I became a mom, I was like, I'm healing this broken version of me that I've been operating on in different forms for so many years. Like I'm not going to not love myself when I look in the mirror. And I'm not going to like look in the mirror and feel unworthy. Yeah. Because if I don't feel worthy, then how on earth can I make her feel worthy?
How can I make her feel worthy? Yeah. I've even gotten to the point where like, I'm really aware of like how much skincare I keep on my counter. And like, what am I trying to cover up? What kind of insecurities am I trying to mask? I don't want my daughter walking in there and seeing a pile of skincare and makeup and all of this stuff. Yeah. Like I want her to see me growing and aging truly gracefully and happily. Like how am I going to tell her that she's beautiful and that she can age this way and that she doesn't need to like, you know, dampen herself down or make a new face on herself if I'm doing that? So I keep it, and she is watching me.
Oh man.
Right now, she watches everything I freaking do. It is wild. The things that you think she's kind of distracted, and she is listening
got
to
it all.
everything.
Everything.
So it's like I'm starting with that stuff now. But
do you feel reborn as a mom?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I feel completely different.
Like a different human.
And that was so scary. Like when I had her, I had an allergic reaction to the Pitocin. So I had an at-home water birth planned, and I started off that way. I went into labor. I was in labor for 3 days at home. It was really beautiful. I went in and out of labor, and like we were dancing and cooking, and I was in and out of the tub, and like she just wasn't progressing. And I was 42 weeks and 3 days. So I'd gone over
this time.
Yeah. And my midwife was like, there's just something we're not seeing. Like she's in a weird position. I can't get her to move. We need to transfer because legally she can't deliver me at home anymore. And so I transferred. I ended up getting on Pitocin, trying to start my labor back in. I had an allergic reaction. Long story short, I ended up getting a cesarean section, and I hemorrhaged horribly. Like almost lost my uterus. They couldn't stop the bleeding. And they had to do like 3 different types of stitches on my uterus to try to get the bleeding to stop. It just wouldn't. I was just gushing blood. And like Martin literally said that he could hear my blood dripping on the floor. Like it was just like he said he looked up into the light and he could see a reflection of the doctor, and she was just like covered in blood. And the baby had been born. Yeah. And I started to go gray, and I felt this. They put my baby on the chest, and I felt this deep breath like, okay, I can go. I felt it.
Like you felt like you could leave?
I'm telling you, I'm going to cry thinking about it because it's so profound when you're faced with
life and
the
death
hot breath
at the
of
same
death.
time.
Yes.
But you just given birth.
I had just given
new
birth.
Life.
I had this like my purpose is fulfilled. I had just given birth to her. I was in a different headspace. I wasn't really in my mammalian like human headspace. I was like,
yeah,
I did my job, and I felt like the warm tinglies that people talk about when they come really close to like I pulled. Just felt completely like this peaceful, like warm feeling. Like I was
ready.
Yeah.
What brought you back?
I'll tell you what brought me back. It's so weird. I heard the voice of my anesthesiologist. He said, "That's pooling. What are we going to do? That's pooling."
Like pooling? Blood
like
is pooling?
It was just like pooling. I was just like, they couldn't stop my bleeding. And so I heard that and I was like, what's pooling? Because I couldn't feel anything.
Yeah.
And they ripped my baby off of my chest. And then I felt this shock in my shoulder. Just like this like wham. It felt like someone stuck something that thick into my shoulder. But my anesthesiologist hit me with an adrenaline shot to stop my bleeding. And it was like adrenaline and Pitocin mix, but it was this huge needle. And it felt like it went to the bone, and it like jerked me out of that like thing that I was feeling. And I was like, ow!
How do you not know that you're allergic to, wait, what was it?
Pitocin, which is like the synthetic oxytocin.
And the adrenaline shot had Pitocin in it also?
It does. Apparently it will stop bleeding, which is weird.
How do you not know you're allergic to Pitocin?
I mean, I'd never had it before.
So they don't test beforehand?
No. My sister's really allergic to it too. She hemorrhaged, and I didn't know that. My older sister, when she gave birth, she was really allergic to it. So, there's no way to know. But my midwife was like, I wasn't reacting to the Pitocin, and they kept putting higher and higher and higher levels. And once I got to like this kind of dangerous high level, and my uterus wasn't responding, she's allergic to this, and we need to cut her off immediately. She was like, she's going to hemorrhage, and we have to go into the OR. So it was crazy. But so I came really close to dying. And I felt like when she was born, I had this identity crisis after, and I had like all this postpartum depression. And I was like, the person I was before, they don't warn you about this, I think, enough. No one talked me through this, that you die.
Oh, yeah.
You go through a death.
Yes.
And you are mourning the death of this person. And your new self is about to be born, but you don't know when, and you don't know that person.
And
you
she's
don't trust
fragile.
her, and she's fragile, and you don't know what she looks like.
And she doesn't know
or
how to
what
do
clothes
this.
she's gonna wear. She doesn't freaking know anything.
She doesn't know how to do anything.
And you think this old self does, and you're kind of like, no.
You can't rely on the old self because she, like you said,
She's
she didn't know
gone.
anything about the new
She
self.
didn't know anything either.
No, and she definitely can't coach you through this new self.
And exactly. So, excuse me. You're like sitting in this very vulnerable kind of like gray area of like, oh my freaking God. And there's no one that can really kind of walk you through that. You have to go through it.
It's your own walk. I know. You can lean on people and have friends and support and look to guides, but like ultimately it's you.
Yeah.
I know.
And so I had this like full blown like identity crisis where I was like, who am I as a mother? Who am I as Naomi? Who am I as, a sexual woman to my husband? Who am I?
Yeah.
Like, I don't freaking know. I like, what am I going to do?
Mm-hmm.
And I have all these siblings. I was a nanny. I felt like I was like, the most equipped you could
were
be.
ready.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, I got my ego blown up, and it needed to be.
Yeah.
But it was also then, Caro, that like I had this realization that like had I died, which women do.
Yep.
A lot of women have died bringing children into the world. And a lot of children have died. Like it is something that it's
a big deal.
It's a big deal. You can die doing it.
Yeah.
And I was like, what if I had gone and my daughter went to iTunes or Spotify or whatever to listen to my music, she would hear, a couple of ditties and some Runaway June stuff, but like she would never know me. She would never freaking know me at all as a mother, as a daughter, as a child, as a wife. Like she would never know who I was by listening to those, the songs where I'm trying to sell beer at a festival.
And it just became super important to you.
It came so clear. Like she's blonde haired and blue eyed. Like she doesn't know she's Cherokee. She could never look in the mirror and say, I have Cherokee blood. I can. Like I can look in the mirror and be like,
that makes sense.
Something's up. Yeah. But she wouldn't. And so it became like, nothing became more important than me going, okay, it is time for me to tell these stories.
To walk in your absolute truth.
Yeah.
In everything you do.
Yeah. And that near-death experience, man, it made me, there's really nothing I'm afraid of anymore.
That's incredible.
I mean, I'm sure I will be faced with
what
things.
A gift,
I'm
ultimately,
a human being, but yeah, huge. I mean,
to take the fear of dying away, especially when you're holding your child for the first time, because that's
I'm even more afraid
fear.
of dying now that I have a kid.
I know.
But you're right. It was a gift to come that close because I had such a metamorphosis, like life change. That I knew I had a knowing that I didn't really have before. I was kind of like, okay, I've got this, this history of me as a singer where I love to perform. You've seen me perform. I love it. I love being on stage. I'm born to do that. And once
again, the voice that you have.
Thank you.
Thank you. The most beautiful voice I've ever heard.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I love it. But I was really focused on like, I was in, fairs and festival mode, touring mode. I'm like, I'm a stage dweller. I like to be up here. I'm going to sell beer and t-shirts and do high kicks and like, show my belly button. But
it ran its course.
Yeah. And that was who I was, that person.
Yeah.
Genuinely. But once I had this experience and I started writing this other music, it was like, oh, but I have a lot of other people that I want to show this other side of me too. And I think that gives me a lot more longevity as well, because this is who I am at my core. Like, this is who I am. That's like the performing Naomi. And like, I loved that. But that was the maiden. I've transformed into the mother.
Mm-hmm.
And I think our society doesn't really glorify the mother like they do the maiden, this sexual being who kind of is very, naive and whatever. There's like all this sex around her, but man, the woman the mother is a completely new creature.
It is.
And I love it.
I do too. I do too. I mean, Naomi, man, your journey, I could talk to you for hours.
I know.
About
I
your
could
story.
talk to you for, let's do it actually.
I'm so happy to catch up with you. I'm so happy you put out new music. So you put out 2 songs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where can everyone find them?
Everywhere where you stream music.
Mama Ain't Jesus.
Yeah. Yep. And Bricks Make Houses.
Is that the single? Or are they both?
They both
single?
are. Yeah. Yeah. Mom I Ate Jesus is a song about like, I don't want to go on a tangent here, but like I was telling a friend this the other day. I often like go out into a supermarket or somewhere out, in public, and I see these moms and they're always like a little distracted or like, they got their kids, they're chasing their kids. You can tell they have, something to accomplish. They're reading their lists, or they just look super vulnerable and feminine. And I observe them all the time. But what's interesting is like just underneath that vulnerable, like lovely woman is a fucking killer.
Yeah.
Is
yes.
the most vicious, dangerous creature on the planet.
Yeah.
And I find that to be so fascinating. And I'm that now.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always had a maternal protective instinct over my siblings, but it's way different now. My senses, like that woman, if you try to approach her, she's got eyes in the back of her head and her back.
She's watching everything you do.
She can, if someone even thinks about her kid, she can feel it. It's like, that is so fascinating to me. And so that's what Mom Ate Jesus is about. Like, we kind of, we're perceived a certain way in the world, and maybe we are a little bit that. I'm vulnerable and feminine, and I like to be seen that way as well. But I will cut someone's head off.
Yeah, like legit.
Yeah, if they try to hurt my kid.
I like how you said I'm a hippie who doesn't hesitate.
I'm a hippie who won't hesitate.
That's amazing. Yeah. But you're so right.
Yeah.
It is a fierceness like like none other. It's like you will kill for your child.
Oh my God.
Nothing
I will
could stand in your way.
Someone literally, like, I will kill, steal, destroy. Like, and I feel it. And it's like, but at the same time, I'm trying to teach her to be a good person that does good, and it's a very interesting, complicated, exciting journey to be on. So yeah, I love being a mother. I've never felt more feminine and sexual and enlightened in my life. Like, I was kind of afraid of like, I felt like kind of that stuff would go away when I became a mom, but it doesn't.
Amplified.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm so happy for you. I'm so happy for your journey. Your life is so beautiful.
Thank you. So is yours.
And just what a tapestry that you have really turned into.
That's a beautiful thing to say.
It's like a beautiful
tapestry.
Quilt. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. It's just so pretty how it all comes together. And like you can see how it's made you into who you are. And like the wisdom that you have is deep.
Yeah. Thank you.
Knowing.
Thank you so much for saying that. It's very kind.
What can everyone be looking forward to from you? Where can they keep up with you?
I'm putting out a full-length record, which is going to be so fun. There's like 17 songs on it.
So this is the story of your life.
Yeah. This is an autobiographical album.
Is it going to start at the beginning?
It's going to start at the beginning. There's a song that I'm likely going to open the record with called Bloodline. And it talks about, it's actually in my Cherokee expression, which I've never done before in my music. And like we knew, I always knew I was Cherokee growing up. My dad is like half Cherokee. And it was like always fun as a kid to like know we were natives. But it became really important to me, like many other things did, to really like, I don't know, express it. And like, I want to incorporate it into my music. Like, I really want to showcase that part of me. It's so important to me now. So I opened the record with it, and it's got like some native chanting and drums and stuff.
That's
it's
awesome.
Really, really cool. And so I'm planning, I will probably be done with this record like mid summer. So it'll be coming out, I don't know, early autumn sometime. We're going to keep it like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's what I'm really looking forward to it. And I'm co-producing it. So I have to like be in Utah. I have to like be in the saddle, which is very fun.
Do you feel nervous that you're putting your whole life out there? Excited?
Both. More excited though. I feel super
liberated.
Like I'm supposed to do this.
Yeah.
So it's less scary. And the more I talk to people, the less scary it becomes. And I'm just more excited to talk about it.
Do you love, okay, this will be my last couple questions and we'll wrap up. Do you love living in Utah off the grid out of Nashville? I know y'all have part-time here, but is it nice to be out of the grind?
Yes. I really, really needed that. I needed to go somewhere. So I'm producing this record with Josh Kelly, who's awesome. Charles Kelly's brother. And he's dude, he is such a genius.
And he lives in Utah.
He lives in Utah.
Is that why y'all are there?
Well, no, it's not why we're there, but I happened to meet Josh and he lives in the next town over. It was very serendipitous.
Okay. Also confirmation that like you're doing everything.
Oh my God.
Right.
Crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, living in Utah, I needed to get away from Nashville and like work with someone who wasn't like backed up with 25 TikTok artists that could like, you know, he's so unjaded. He's such a child like in the creative room.
That's
and he's
amazing.
Just like throwing, and I needed these songs to dare to suck.
Mm-hmm.
And I needed to write a few bad songs in order to really like make this, because it's not been a easy project to put together. And I didn't want people like breathing down my neck or like feeling like I just wanted someone just wanted to write a hit. You know, I needed to write
the right songs.
Unhits. Yeah.
You needed to write the story, the right version.
Yeah. And like we're in the shadow of these beautiful mountains, and I get to like, I'm making the record in this stable. So there's like all these animals and this beautiful stream that runs through it. I just really needed to like make this record and be closer to nature and the creator in order to be more creative with just one collaborator.
That's amazing. So it's just you and him wrote all of them?
I've written songs with other people, but there's a lot of two ways on there. This is the first project I've ever written anything with Martin. We wrote 2 songs on this one.
Do y'all write together a lot, or is
no,
this new?
We do not.
So y'all don't mix
work together.
Work and pleasure. Because 2 artists living together, that could be tricky.
No, much less 2 lead singers. Like that's
how are y'all working that out? Way to go.
Thank you. We really don't mix it.
Okay.
And unless it benefits our marriage, and it rarely benefits our marriage. And so we keep it. I think that's really our best little rule, is like we do not do anything unless it benefits our marriage. And working together really doesn't benefit our marriage in any way.
Yeah.
It benefits our careers, but our careers aren't first, our marriages. So what happened with these 2 songs is we just kind of started to accidentally write them together while we were driving.
They popped in.
Yeah. And that was God. And we just did it. And they both made the records. So there's a lot of me and someone else. But it's pretty sparse. And it's really, really, really wonderful. It feels really good.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm going to send you some stuff.
I want to hear it.
I think you'll like it.
Oh, I know I'll love it.
Okay.
I seriously think you are truly one of the most gifted singers that I've ever met, because it's just so real.
Thank you.
It's just so real. Okay, I always wrap up with leave your light, and it's just a super open-ended question. What do you want people to know? What's some inspiration you want to drop?
I want people to return to nature, even if that is walking outside of your apartment in the morning, take your shoes off and just find a little patch of grass and put your feet on the earth. Like, I think there is so much healing when you connect with nature, because nature is the creator, whatever that is to you, you know. I think that is like a remedy to heal a sick culture. Is to get back to nature. There's parks everywhere, you know, looking out your window and just watching a little squirrel like for 5 seconds, like that is a connection. And I think you remember yourself, and you just become a better person when you're connected, when you just connect with nature once a day. So that's my little piece.
I love that. Thank you so much for joining me. Where can everyone find you? You're on Instagram, Naomi Johnson.
Yep. I'm Naomi Johnson on Insta, TikTok, all that stuff. Yeah. Follow me if you dare.
Okay. I know we've been talking. Oh my gosh. This has been almost an hour and a half.
Whoa.
Thank you for staying with me.
Of course. Oh my gosh. I love
Can
you.
I have you for like 5 more minutes and you answer a few questions for a bonus episode? Okay.
Yes.
It's called, we're just going to do a quick bonus episode called Tell Me More with Naomi Johnson. Okay. It'll be on Thursday. Thank you so much for joining me.
Oh my gosh.
This was amazing.
Thanks for having me. This is so fun.